I just thought, before we really get into the nitty-gritty of Nighty-Night, and to kind of use, as we took the icebreakers talked about in the first half, as a little icebreaker, and because we're celebrating our big comedy season, I'm going to put you on the spot and just ask you individuals to go along the row and just tell me either who your comic influences when you were growing up, or who or what makes you laugh now. And I'm putting Mark right on the spot down the far end and giving Julia enough time to think of one down this end.
Julia Davis makes me laugh.
Was that when you were a child?
Growing up, I liked, I don't know, films like Spinal Tap and The Jerk that I introduced here a little bit ago. Young Ones, all sorts of things. But, yeah.
What about you, Felicity?
Well, I was going to say Spinal Tap, but now it's embarracing because I wasn't growing up.
That's fine.
I was a bit older, but I was a massive fan of Spinal Tap.
Well, we'll believe you anyway.
And I mean, I was from the generation Morecambe and Wise and Dad's Army, and I love the comic timing and precision. But I'm a massive fan of Julia's as well, because I just think that she does something so daring and so dangerous, and her work is developing more and more and more now, and it's really fascinating.
You're just selling the new series. Because you're in it.
It's
reached its peak.
I never mentioned it. I didn't mention it, did I? But I just think it's unlike anybody else. She's, you see her comedy really growing. I mean, Carl Reiner, he develops, and it's really exciting. And when you see someone staying on the same plateau, it's kind of it's great what they do. But when you see them actually growing and developing, then it's really, really dangerous and exciting. And I love that.
What about you, Kevin?
Songs of Praise, Panorama.
Comedy.
All of them. Steptoe and Son, Dad's Army, Whatever Happened to the Likely Lads, Morecambe and Wise, Young Ones, just, I can quote most of it.
Steptoe and Son was absolutely extraordinary.
Cobblers!
I absolutely love that. So, yeah, all the old ones. And Julia's quite good as well.
Yeah. Ruth.
I don't like Julia.
No.
Max Boyce.
Hey, so Welsh.
Yes, I love Max Boyce. Similar, the Young Ones was a big thing. Because and what people don't realise, youngsters today don't realise, you had to set your VHS recorder and record it, and it was only on once a week. And it was so... And in Wales, we didn't get Channel 4, because it was on Channel 4, wasn't it?
BBC 2, wasn't it? 9 o'clock.
Well, we used to have to... but it was S4C. It wasn't on S4C, and we had S4C, and only in my brother's bedroom could you get a signal to actually record it. So it was even more special. But yeah, Young Ones.
You just watch Probably Come all the time.
Yes.
What about you, Mark?
When I was growing up, Julia.
Yeah.
All the usual. Everyone said the same. Leonard Rossiter was my hero when I was a kid, and Ronnie Barker very much. But yeah, I only reiterate what everyone said. This show is very special to us all, and it's so long ago, but it's like a Dario Argento film. It's absolutely insane, isn't it?
What about you, Angus?
When I was growing up, Charlie Chaplin, Laurel and Hardy. I guess I was growing up during Python and Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, all that kind of 70s shite. And nowadays, I love something called Love, which was on Netflix, I think, with Gillian Jacobs. Anything with Tina Fey, love her. And Julia, obviously. Camping, Sally Forever.
And what about you, Julia?
All of the above.
Say Julia.
Pete and Doug. Julie Walters, massively. French and Saunders. And now Kristen Wiig, all the SNL people.
We had Jennifer Saunders on stage here a couple of weeks ago, and your name did crop up actually during the conversation because she was talking about.
Is that a bit Jill? Sorry.
Yeah, she was talking about the fact that there are some performers and writers who are women who still are probably not celebrated as much as men are, and she was talking about the fact that a lot of women performers, particularly when they're kind of going into the realm of the more kind of the stranger or darker areas, with men it's just sort of seen as being but also, with the women almost there's still that sort of that sort of thing where people sort of stand back a bit and they're still not celebrated or encouraged as much as probably as with men. I'm not going to ask you to comment on that, but it's just
no. But I do think that I do get the dark label thing a lot, and I always think it's like it's an accusation when interviewers ask that question.
Well, I'm glad I didn't ask it.
Yeah.
Then. And I mean, do you feel in the way that by being able to create a character that does things that are so completely unforgivable in a sort of social sense, that is a nice kind of liberating outlet for you?
Very much so. Yeah.
And when you're writing something like Nighty-Night or any one of your shows, do you start off with the characters or with the plots, or how
Always
does that
with
work?
the character. Yeah.
And you improvise with some of the actors or all of the actors?
Yeah, I mean, on Nighty-Night, I improvised a lot initially on the material with Jane Stannis, she's in the second series and lots of different things. And then, I can't remember, did we improvise when we were filming? Probably.
Yeah.
I think there's always the kind of...
It's a very long time ago.
You
Yeah.
couldn't be asked writing it. We had to do it all for you. That's right.
there you go then. It's all them.
So in terms of when you get, because I think like, for example, both Marks, a lot of your roles were very improvised, weren't they?
I remember when I came in to do that date sketch, that was really that was the thing, wasn't it? That was the part.
I mean, all there was the wig, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said I brought the teeth from the League of Gentlemen, and I said, and there was a wig available. And I said, I think he might be Scottish, and then we made up the whole thing. And if you've seen the extras on the DVD, we couldn't get through it for laughing. We absolutely. What remains of that is barely broadcastable. We were just crying with laughter. It was one of the funniest things. And we went through that terrible thing where everyone was laughing. Tony, the director, was laughing. The crew were laughing. And then they got over it, and we couldn't. And it was so embarrassing, wasn't it?
I think the same thing happened
hysterical.
during the meal scene.
Yeah.
As soon as you got to the line, smashed prawns in a milky basket, everyone went.
Yeah.
It took
And
hours to
I remember
record
with the asthma attack. Do you remember? the camera operator was literally shaking. It was terrible. And we got letters of complaints, didn't we? And we were very proud to be able to
We're
admit to
all
being
asthmatic.
asthmatic.
I mean, there's 3 asthmatics at least amongst this group. So.
Phew, thank goodness. Yeah.
And Mark, a lot of your the Lasso the Moon, a lot of that was
Same thing. Turned up with some teeth. I don't know if you remember. I did. I had a little collection of teeth, and Julia chose the brace. He's wearing a brace in that scene, which
I
adds
just
to
love
the.
that. I love the brace.
I had some metal, weird, which I didn't use for a different character, and brought those along. But that's also what I remember is just corpsing and the joy of corpsing between every take and ruining takes. Yeah.
And you couldn't imagine a more different role than the role you then came back on to play in the second series, because you played kind of the abusive boyfriend of Ruth.
You dirty. Lender, you dirty.
But you know, there were so many things that, as is always the case, that didn't make it on screen. But do you remember there was that one scene, I think, was it in the second series? Yeah, it must have been, with the buckets of manure. Do you remember?
I don't fully remember that.
Being thrown, you had to throw buckets of manure over me.
Yeah.
And, you know, the art department had done this amazing thing. It looked so real. And I don't know if I would do that today. I was so kind of gung-ho and go, no, but I'd be just so scared. I'd go, yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, I remember
It's really good
headbanging
fun.
that night as well till quite
Yeah.
late.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
around
think that
the
stayed
fire.
in, didn't it?
Yeah,
Oh,
that
did
was
it?
it. Yeah.
There's that incredible scene when you're in the van, which is, I like to think, a little sort of homage to Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Lover with Helen Mirren and Alan Howard. I don't know which is or not, but that's how I like to think of it in my very high art way. Julia's not, because it is, of course, true. So Felicity and Kevin, when you got the script, how much of what you ended up being was on paper, and how much of it did you bring sort of improvising and so forth?
Well, no, it was there. I mean, it was all there. And then that's the great thing about working with Jules is, you know, if you got something to bring along to the old table, if it's good enough, you know, sort of get in. So Terry was there as far as that character was concerned. It's sort of a gormless twit, and Julie said to me, "Give us your gormless twit," and so it was very good. We would improv stuff, but we already had a good set of lines to work off anyway. So. You know,
What's going on with your hair in that scene?
Yeah, I know. It was the wig thing. It was quite extraordinary. But But talking of the corpsing and all that, shit, never have I worked with anybody who corpses as much as she
I've
does.
met
She
someone
just
worse.
Well, you've met someone worse.
Catherine
Right, give them a
Shepherd.
medal.
In Sally Forever, she's
Really?
literally the worst.
Right.
Corpse ever.
Oh yes,
Okay.
but
it was
Catherine's
always-
terrible. She's
Yeah.
just terrible.
Yeah.
But it was always a really good barometer. You always knew that you'd done a good job if Julia corpsed.
But Kev, you never did you, Kevin?
Oh,
you just
no.
Never.
Oh, really?
No, I'm dead inside.
Was the tick in the script, Mark?
No. That was, I mean, I had three things: a wig, some teeth, and a tick. Terrible truth is, I used to go out with someone a long time ago he was a very lovely boy, but he had I shouldn't say this, but he at the corner of my eye, I'd see him just go like that. And because I'm so mean, I filed it away. I just never had the guts to go, what is that? And that was the end of that. So all I did with Glenn was sort of exaggerated at this point. I think the funniest thing to me, because literally I'm introduced in the dating agency as Glyn. When I meet, I say I'm Glenn. It's definitely with two N's, but on the chocolate egg it's with one. It's even different in the credits. I don't know. I'm just called Bull. Who am I?
Julia, I don't know, when you're writing, do you have people in mind? I mean, I don't know at this stage whether you had already cast it in your mind or how different the cast is.
I had, yeah. I mean, I think I'd worked with, a lot of us had worked together before anyway, but I was introduced to Mark at the end by Vanessa White, the makeup lady. So yeah, but it's always good if you do have someone in mind, I find.
And there's something very nice about your work, which is that you have got sort of and the members sort of come and go, but there is a kind of ensemble there, isn't there? Always, there's always a kind of group of people. I mean, does that feel much more comfortable to work with people? You're kind of,
Yeah, I mean, partly because you know that these are people that are on the same wavelength with the material, but also having friends around, having fun. It's so important.
But does that sometimes though make some of the more kind of intimate or the more kind of sort of boundary pushing stuff a little bit kind of uncomfortable? Or does the fact you feel you know them and you trust them therefore?
Yeah, I think that's easy. It makes it easier.
And you didn't direct this show, but you have sort of directed other shows. And I wonder, first of all, whether the panel felt that was a natural progression that Julia would direct from the way that she was on this, or in terms of, I mean, I know you had a very established director who's worked on Hundersby and Only Fools and Horses and other stuff, but was it very clear that there was a sort of director there who wanted to get out? Mark's nodding.
Clearly not.
Definitely, you're always across everything, aren't you? From like the look, what's happening, how it's being shot. So there's no real.
Yeah, I mean, I think
surprise.
actually watching that, I sort of thought, wow, that's really well directed. I think I would always get frustrated on different jobs, feeling like we weren't doing enough takes. We could, So I think it was mostly that made me want to direct. Really.
Well, I did a day on Sally Forever, and it was just brilliant. It was just like going back in time, just having fun again. But I remember that, and but the brilliant thing was, because Julia was directing, there was the set was very easy. There was no one sort of trying to chivvy anyone along, because it was actually up to you. But also it meant we kind of got the scene, everything that was on paper really, and then you just go, well, let's try something else. And I think that's the best way of doing it. I mean, there's the structure's there, and you know where you're getting to, but it means you can just feel free to throw things in. And then we had some desperate times again.
Had you worked with Angus before?
No.
Where did you get the idea to cast him as the heartthrob of the piece?
Yes, where did you get that?
Part of the idea was Sarah Crowe, the casting lady.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I must thank her when I next see her. Yeah, no, we never worked together. No.
Nor since. Series
Which
2.
is
You did
more
do
telling,
Series
yeah.
2, didn't you?
Yes, I did
Series
do Series
3.
2. Series 3, which is obviously in the pipeline.
I mean, if there was a Series 3, I mean, if somebody approached, I guess you have been approached, but I mean, one thing I think, having just seen Sally Forever, actually for the first time last night, I watched the first 3 episodes, and it is fantastic and completely original and different, but there are bits of her character that are a bit Jill Tyrrelly, aren't there? I mean, is that as near as you think we're going to get to a
Tyrolean.
Tyrolean. Is that about as near to a Series 3 as you think we're going to get, or could it
I
be?
just don't know. Could we ever go back? I mean,
People have spoken.
I mean, it feels like after the first series, which I don't know how long it took you to create and write, you then had to turn the second series around really quickly. And now, obviously, with a bit more time, maybe there is a season 3 in you.
Yeah.
Weren't the
5
BBC
years.
quite keen on a season 3?
Were
I
they?
think they were, yeah. You had other things to
Oh,
do.
right.
Yeah.
No, I can't remember.
Be interesting now though, because obviously when it went out, it was on BBC Three, wasn't it? And so you kind of think, where would it? Was it 2003 that it
Yeah.
was?
So you were filming at
2004?
3 and it was
Yeah.
released at January 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and people's viewing has changed now, and yeah, it'd be a whole different sort of landscape, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think Linda would have grey hair now as well.
I don't think she would.
There are some amazing kind of set pieces in the program. One of the moments that most stands out, I think, is probably the interpretation of Lavender Blue. From paper to performance, I wonder if you just tell us a little bit about how that ended up.
I think, again, it was probably,
In the first week, that was.
yeah,
wasn't it?
trying to find a track that we could clear, liking that one.
Is that Genesis?
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Which are
Yeah.
basically the same thing.
There's a great love for soft rock throughout the show.
Yes. There
But it was just like playing. Was it? I mean, none of that was choreographed.
No, that was, we just made that.
surprising.
Did you tell?
Because didn't we do something with Kate Bush in the second
In the
series on the
second one.
beach?
I don't know if it ended up in the
I
show.
didn't end
Oh,
up.
no,
and
that
then
was,
and in
that
the
was
church.
me singing
Oh.
Nelly Furtado. I seem to remember.
And in the beach, in the second series as well. Oh no, in the church, in the funeral. There's a
Oh, yeah, there's
a
something with the
bullfight.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
And the horse.
Yes.
And the whole-
The show was exec produced by Steve Coogan and Henry Normal for Baby Cow. Did Steve get very involved in the show?
I couldn't get him off the set. Could you?
Yeah.
I don't think he ever came to the set. I think he did look at the script, and Henry got very involved. Steve generally looked at the scripts and said, "Oh, it's too much. You can't do that. You just always have to go one step further all the time."
Was there anything that was in the script or you wanted to do during the premiere that was just not allowed? Like the BBC or Baby Cow said, no, you cannot do that.
Not that I can remember. No.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
He did have eventually a very strong involvement though, because the entirety of the last 15 minutes of episode 6 is shot in his house. Because we had there was no money left, was there? And we just invented the entire ending with the
Yeah.
Nana Chocker Scotch and the Scottish country dancing. It was that was the most insane thing.
That was a kind of a reshoot, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
I can't remember what.
No.
Maybe the ending must have gone wrong. Whatever. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
that was an extraordinary thing. And I remember because we stayed over.
Yeah.
Because Steve said,
Yeah,
you'll have
take
to do
that
it. You'll have to
back,
do it you'll have to do it in my house. There's nowhere else to go. We stayed over, and I had to get up and then put my pajamas on. And we just, it was absolutely crazy with Mike Fenton Stevens. It was
Yeah.
amazing. That was
Yeah.
absolutely amazing.
One of the incredible things about tonight is actually that Mark was on stage last night in Nottingham and has come here today to be here. Ruth has trekked literally from Wales and is
I
on
was on
stage
stage
tomorrow
as well
night.
last
Yeah.
night.
You're on stage last night, trekked down
Did
from
two
Wales.
maths, did 2 shows, didn't we?
2 shows,
Not
yes.
in the same thing.
And I think that's a real testament to the programme, the fact that they're both here. But I wonder, looking back on it, because I know you all sat and rewatched it just then, sort of starting with Mock and moving on to how you feel having watched it again now, and what, what, I don't know, either anything that particularly kind of comes to mind that you remember from that time, or how you feel about the work, how kind of proud you are of the
I
work.
think it's a brilliant show. I just absolutely love it. It's one of on my little shelf of DVDs. I've got like a little area of the top shows, and it's there. It's brilliant. I think feel lucky to have been in it, but it's just
It's
the
still quite
dancing,
shocking.
everything. I love it all. Just it's so lovely to see it again. Don't you agree?
You don't have to do it a lot. If any of you want to interject or whatever, that's fine. But
Oh, well, I know it sounds like I'm plugging Sally Forever on HBO and Sky.
Here she goes again.
Sky Atlantic. And 7 episodes is already on its 4th, isn't it, Julia? But actually, I'm not cheap. But basically being directed by Julia in this, in Sally Forever, as I was watching it, I was imagining how Julia would have directed it immediately, because I just came out absolutely blown out by her directing in Sally Forever. I mean, it was just phenomenal. And there are a couple of theatre directors, you know, like Richard Eyre I've worked with, and they're just fantastic. And Julia was she had us all like little babies around her, sort of making suggestions, but not direct just saying, listen, I don't like what you're doing, or can you just, it was just like a really good director. They create images for you to latch onto, and I mean, I think this programme really holds. And I was really proud sitting there, you know, by Alex, who was in Hundersby, and
We should say we have got Alex McQueen.
yeah, we've got Alex McQueen here.
Who is here and is great in Hundersby and Sally Forever. Was also in Mark's High and Dry as well.
But I'm just very, very
but who
proud
Julia
that it
didn't
still
cast in
stands.
Nighty-Night.
Sorry?
But who Julia
I
didn't
didn't
cast in
know it,
Nighty-Night.
But I think it's telling that 15 years on, it's still quite shocking.
But you know what I
Expect.
Although-
I mean,
Which bit were you shocked by?
well, masturbating in the toilet, I think, was... I mean, I never ever told my parents that I was in this show. No, they went to their grave both knowing nothing of any series called Nighty-Night. I mean, you can't really.
Though,
can you?
because I suppose I always think it's darkly, you know, it's funny in a dark way. Is a sort of if you were going to generally label it. But it's actually watching it now. It just was so joyous, and the dark stuff. It isn't dark. It's just so silly that it just makes you laugh. And you know, I mean, it was a testament, wasn't it, that to how funny it is that it's virtually every line.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
people
what I
were
thought.
laughing.
Just so many brilliant lines.
Exactly,
It's
and
really funny.
I have found like you know the different sort of jobs I've done and stuff over the years. I always get this inner respect for somebody when they, you know, obviously it's lovely if people compliment things that you've been in, but when they say, I really love Nighty-Night, I kind of, my respect goes up, because it's like, I just think, oh, that's, you know, that's class, that is.
Well,
I just want to say one thing. I do think that actually...
Sally Forever's better, yeah.
I didn't say that. I just think that really good comedy is based on tragedy. I mean, I know we all know that, it's obvious. But I do think that, you know, the themes that... Sorry, Julia, I'm talking like you're a puppet, but the themes that Julia was looking at during Nighty-Night...
Julia Davis, who died today. You like it dark, don't you?
I can't fucking win, really. Too many comics here.
I thought, for me, over the last, I can't believe it's 15 years. I would have said 10. I had no idea. But it's amazing how often it comes up, and the fact, you know, I get invitations to the Vauxhall Tavern all the time to Nighty-Night nights and things. It's like Rocky Horror Show. It's amazing. But
What happens in Nighty-Night?
I don't want to know.
You know about this?
Prawn
Julia?
baskets.
Heard about it.
But it's amazing how I was just telling everyone earlier. I was in America a few years ago, and it was a Comic-Con, and it was the most sort of glamorous as it's supposed to get. You know, it was the TV Guide yacht party, with proper, you know, glamorous girls, a red carpet, blazing sunshine, everybody there. And there was a very bored photographer taking pictures of everyone. I was on the red carpet with David Bradley, and then this guy just went, "Oh my God, were you in Nighty-Night?" It's an amazing leveler. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, you know, if people say I really like Nighty-Night, that they have a very dark, sick, bleak.
Do you know who was a massive Nighty-Night fan? It was George Michael. Yeah,
Didn't he have some sort of like thing in hospital, and he came round and he was talking like you?
Yeah, I heard a thing. Do you know about this?
No.
Really weird.
Yeah, apparently he was in a coma, and when he came round, or sort of on his way out of the coma, he was speaking as Jill.
Really, I mean, I feel really sort of embarrassed saying this, and I shouldn't say it, my agent would kill me. But really, Sue 2 was based on massive tits. And I remember two things about Steve Coogan when I did Alpha Papa. I was sent off the set about 5 times because he said, "It's not fucking big enough. The wig is not fucking big enough. Get fuck off." Like this. And anyway, with Julia, I sort of tried to get the tits smaller and smaller, and she was like, "They're not big enough." Got hairs have got to be bigger, you know, and all that sort of thing. So
Those
honestly, it's
nipples that
ridiculous.
you had, they were kind of like...
Well, like, it was like one of those, you know, those silicone things they put in
But
you.
they were bigger on the second series.
They got bigger, and I had this sort of debate again, slightly tense. But what were the nipples, though? What were they made
They were
of?
great, weren't they?
Yeah, some kind of plasticky.
They were huge. I remember being appalled in the makeup chair. Thinking, no, don't put them on me. I never even told my parents about the show.
No.
Okay.
But we were thinking of Julia, and we just wanted this really kind of like tired, exhausted, completely cynical, fed up woman. But I don't think we kind of thought, oh, we'll get, because I don't think Dawn and Jill are the same, do you?
No, I mean, it's just the nastiness, isn't it? It's the kind of...
We got a complaint letter about that, didn't we? The pre-op line.
Oh, really?
The pre-op. That was true. Yeah, that was. I mean, see now so much. You do wonder what you could now get away with in this current climate. People would get so offended by everything. I do wonder about that.
You watch Sally Forever, it's scissoring.
I haven't it's stored up to
But the funny thing is, Ruth, it's just because there's a dark side to the characters. I mean, I've heard people asking this endlessly, Julia. But the character Sally Forever isn't like Jill at all. I mean, she's not. It's just that she's actually a lot more vulnerable in a way.
What's this Sally Forever?
No, but it's just like, because people sort of say, oh, it's the same. It isn't the same. It is not the same
but there are
character.
some, like, for example, there's a scene in Sally Forever when they're going to the funeral, and Julia's character is in the back. And it's got a very Jill-like quality to it, definitely.
Yeah, I'm sure
Same actress, I heard.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there we go. That'll be that then. I mean, just generally, would you revisit it, do you think? On the basis of tonight's audience?
I just don't know. I mean, it would be really fun to play the character. I mean, for me, I don't know, but anyway.
Yeah, because sometimes, don't we? Like, I remember when I went on holiday to India, and I texted you because I'd had to go through a really vigorous security check at the airport with really strict security guards, like female security guards that were kind of like really, you know, doing the whole thing. And I'd seen this program as well where this woman had tried to smuggle drugs through, and I remember texting you like as Jill, as Linda, you know, Jill, I've been put in prison.
It's good.
I'm in jail. And we did kind of like have this whole exchange about what. So I think those characters live on, and all of them can have another life, I guess.
I would say, as well, having just done the League of Gentlemen again after 15 years, I'm also in Sally Forever, I guess. But the greatest joy of it was just going back to it, actually, and with enough time, you actually just ask the question, well, what would they be doing? So you ask that question about everybody, what on earth would have happened?
Yeah.
And it does throw something up, doesn't it?
I guess
Appropriately enough.
I guess Kevin would need to play Terry's brother or something, wouldn't he, probably?
Yeah, Terry's
Probably
brother.
not.
To his twin brother, I suppose.
Maybe.
I think she had a lovely time too. No, I think you know, it was quite a big responsibility for her to play that part and to make it both sympathetic and so that you could laugh at her with Jill's awfulness.
Great.
She did quite a lot of research, didn't she? She spoke to people with MS.
Yeah.
So yeah, she took it seriously. But then, you know, she is a proper actress.
Unlike the rest of her.
I can remember because Linda was based on a combination of people. There was a woman who worked in a shop in Cardiff who literally had those buns, and she had glass, and she had very gothic sort of eye makeup, and she wore glasses, but we didn't go down the glasses route with Linda. But do you remember the foot thing when she's that actually did happen to me? There was do you remember?
Yeah.
There was a beauty therapist, and I was having my feet done, and she was Cardiff. So she was going, I'm gonna go quiet now because I loves doing this. And it was all, you know, she really, really enjoyed it, and it was like parmesan. But I remember Claire, she was so brilliant because she said, I think her overall, Linda's overall should just be a bit too small for her. And there's that brilliant shot, isn't it, where it's just like open up. And the jeans were all like a size too small. Thanks, Claire. But it looked right for it, yeah. Oh my God, do you remember the sperm? The wallpaper paste.
Yeah, I mean,
What happened was is that the bit you're talking about? We had to do this. We had to hide behind a door, and they said, right, when we say action, you come out and just have a few little bits of fake sperm on you, where we've been trying to get this sample, and we had this. It was like a wallpaper paste type of stuff, and we went mad, didn't we? We just literally soaked each other in this stuff, and we got so hysterical. And they went, action! We went to run out. We were like drenched in fake sperm.
I remember just immediately the other one, apart from the end of the last episode, there was a bit where I'm in bed and it was about the Lambuna, do you remember? And I had to say, don't go in the toilet, I've had a Lambuna. But we just couldn't do it for laughing. And eventually Julia had to go out of the room. You had to leave the bedroom, and I just had to shoot it. They just shot it on me without her. I just stayed at the wall because the only way to do it. I was crippled with that.
Oh God, there were so many. I mean, my memory of it is just of laughing all the time. I mean, do you remember? I think in the second series with the tuna, it was just like, and when we had to be on, we were on the back of a low loader, and then we had to crash.
when we had to turn. Yeah, I remember.
It was such joy. It was such absolutely unadulterated joy, wasn't it?
It was.
It really was. Such a lovely time.
Yeah, it was great.
What about Sally Forever?
Actually, it was fantastic, and the ensemble playing, it was the same. That everyone really loved being part of it, didn't they, Julia? They did.
I hope so.
They did.
I have to say, Felicity, your role in Sally Forever, truthfully now, is
Sorry?
absolutely
I couldn't
fantastic.
hear that.
Your role in Sally Forever is so different than the other roles we've seen you do. It's a pretty amazing role, isn't it?
Well, it's an absolute phenomenal chance. I mean, Julia's given me a most fantastic opportunity because, I had no idea that, that was the kind of character I could even play. So, it's really, really exciting, actually. But my initial response, wasn't it? What was it? I said, well, there's, Rebecca was in a wheelchair as well, but it's completely
I think
different.
there was worries, wasn't there, to start with the part, what it was. And
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I tried to do my lines with my son about Sally Forever. And I said, oh, Luke, just do us a favour, will you, darling? Just listen to a couple of pages, get a feel, think whether it's good enough, whether I'm good enough and everything. The actor's always paranoid, or I am. Anyway, within about a page, he said, can't do this. Sorry, Mum. I'm not going to help you. Sorry. I said, what's your problem today? Why are you being so fucking touchy? And he said, I can't do it, Mum. She's just unbearable. I thought, oh God, she's unbearable. What am I going to do about that? But it was just really strange. He would never do my lines with me.
That must be like music to your ears, Julia, isn't it? That means you've achieved,
yeah, I mean, it's an interesting character because it sort of develops as the series goes on, and is not quite what it seems. It is quite, and obviously you brought all the great stuff.
Well,
to
you
it,
wrote
the
it.
sort of weirdly flirtatious, strange, manipulative stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Sally Forever is on Sky Atlantic. Then you've got a couple of
HBO.
episodes left, and HBO in America. So it's been such a joyous evening for me, and I think everybody here, to watch the show again, particularly in your company, all of you. It's been so fantastic, and I just want to say a big thank you. It's going to go through Mark Wootton, Felicity Montague, Kevin Eldon, Ruth Jones, Mark Gatiss, Angus Dayton, and Julia Davis.